Welcome to the Balanced Blood Sugar Podcast, where we focus on everyday wellness for everyone. I'm Adrienne, a registered nurse, here to share tips, habits, and lifestyle shifts that can help you feel your best by stabilizing blood sugar and improving your overall health. Everything we discuss is designed for general health and routine education because everyone deserves to feel empowered with the right information. But I'm not your personal nurse, so make sure to check with your healthcare provider before making any changes. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey friends, welcome back to the Balanced Blood Sugar Podcast, where we talk all things blood sugar and give you real practical ways to take control of your health. I'm Adrienne, your friendly neighborhood registered nurse, and today we're diving into one of my favorite topics, sugar-free sweeteners. I gotta say, sweetener options have come a long way over the years. I remember when we first started experimenting with sugar-free baking, and it was tough. There were fewer options, and many didn't taste like sugar at all. My mom was even allergic to many on the market, including stevia. They gave her massive migraines. So it was so difficult to cook sugar-free. But now it's so much easier to cook, bake, and sweeten without sugar. There's a whole range of sweeteners to choose from, and honestly, some are real game changers. And as you know, I am all about keeping that blood sugar steady while still enjoying the foods that you love. So today we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the don't touch with the 10-foot pole when it comes to sugar-free sweeteners. I'll also share my story of running a home bakery with sugar-free cookies and candies because, y'all, there are some amazing ways to make your treats taste just as good, if not better, than the sugary versions. So let's dive in. All right, so let's start with the sweeteners we're going to avoid because not all sugar-free is created equal. First up, maltodextrin. Now, you might see this in some sugar-free products, but let me tell you, this is not your friend. Maltodextrin actually has a higher glycemic index than sugar, meaning it spikes your blood sugar more than regular sugar would. So if you're looking to keep those blood sugars balanced, keep an eye out for maltodextrin and avoid it like the plague. Then there's sucralose, often found in sugar-free sodas and in brands like Splenda. Now, I used to think, okay, 0 calories, 0 sugar, sounds good, right? Nope. There is proof now that sucralose can actually trigger cravings and mess with your insulin sensitivity. It may not raise your blood sugar directly, but it acts a lot like sugar in your body and in your mind, making you want more sweet stuff. So skip the sucralose if you can. Next is agave nectar. It sounds healthy, right? And it was even marketed towards diabetics. It's from a plant, it's natural, but here's the thing. Agave nectar is mostly fructose. Too much fructose can be just as bad as too much glucose because it goes straight to your liver. It can lead to fatty liver disease and insulin resistance if consumed in large amounts. Hence, high fructose corn syrup in the majority of mainstream sodas. The issue here is that we don't have tests to test for blood fructose like we do blood glucose. So you could be having issues that are not appearing on tests if you use a lot of agave nectar. And let's face it, we don't want to trade one sugar problem for another one. So let's just skip the agave nectar. Okay, now let's talk about sugar alcohols, specifically erythritol. There was a study that made headlines not long ago linking erythritol to increased heart attack risk, especially in certain groups. But the study has some major flaws. And one of the main people we follow, Steve at Serious Keto, did an amazing breakdown of the study. I'll link to his video in the show notes so you can check it out yourself. But here's the point. Erythritol is generally safe in moderation for most groups. But if you're an overweight white male, the group identified in that study, you might want to use it more sparingly. But it is important to note, the study used way more erythritol than we would typically eat. So I have no problem keeping it in our diet. And remember, progress, not perfection. I'd rather have a little erythritol and be able to maintain a healthier lifestyle than jump ship over some small possibilities. And let's face it, our risks of heart attack and stroke are much higher being overweight and with imbalanced blood sugars and metabolic issues than eating moderate amounts of sugar alcohols. So let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. Now, erythritol specifically is especially useful if you're trying to create certain textures in your baking, like making fudge or candies that need to harden. It is the only sugar sweetener with a hardening effect, which is why you often see it in sugar-free candies, chocolate chips, and frostings, because it's impossible to get those types of desserts to set hard without a hardening sweetener. Believe me, I tried. Now, let's talk xylitol. It is another common sugar alcohol, which can usually be replaced by allulose now. It was really popular for a while in dessert baking because of its similar properties to sugar when it comes to browning and softening. But it's toxic to animals, especially dogs. So definitely keep that one out of your kitchen if you've got fur babies running around. You can typically swap allulose for xylitol in most recipes. You may need to add a bit more allulose since it tends to be less sweet, but I have found them to swap perfectly in baking. Okay, now let's move on to the fun stuff. What sweeteners do we love and use the most in our home and baking? My top pick, hands down, is allulose. This stuff is literally now considered a superfood. And let me tell you why. It is fantastic for gut health and improving blood sugar balance. And it can actually help prevent blood sugar spikes from going as high as they typically would. So if you can add it to your drinks that you have at meals for some extra blood sugar balancing help. It also behaves the most like sugar in recipes and has the most similar taste. I tell you, it is game changer that we now have access to allulose. And I love that it's naturally derived from fruits like dates. Allulose caramelizes, browns, and sweetens just like sugar, making it perfect for baking. It is a tad less sweet than sugar, so I find that I need to use a little bit more in my recipes, but I love using it to make caramel sauce and pecan pie this time of year. It is definitely the sweetener I use the most and hands down the best for desserts. Next up is monk fruit. Monk fruit is actually sweeter than sugar, so you don't need to use as much. We love the liquid form in our house, especially for adding to things like yogurt, smoothies, or even coffee. It's clean, it's simple, and it doesn't leave an aftertaste. And speaking of value, here's something I know people wonder about: price. Yes, some of these sweeteners can be more expensive up front compared to regular sugar. But here's the good news. Because things like monk fruit and stevia are much sweeter than sugar, you use a lot less. For example, a monk fruit erythritol blend can stretch a long way. So that initial investment lasts for months. And I actually find that bulk buying on Amazon saves me quite a bit compared to what I'd spend in stores. So I often stock up that way, especially on sales throughout the year, like Prime Days and Black Friday. And let's not forget the long-term benefits. You might spend a bit more today on these sugar alternatives, but when you think about the cost of managing blood sugars, or worse, health problems down the road from consistently eating sugar, this upfront cost is a whole lot less in comparison. It's like an investment in your health now, so you're not paying big medical bills later. And you're feeling better with more energy because your blood sugars are more balanced. Okay, now the last one we're going to talk about is stevia. Now, I'll be honest. Stevia does have a little bit of a funny aftertaste. but the liquid version is great to add an extra sweetness boost when needed. I find it works best when you use it in combination with other sweeteners. It's very concentrated, so a little goes a long way. When I'm making homemade chocolate, for example, I might add a little bit of liquid stevia at the end of the process to sweeten it up a bit if it's not quite as sweet as I would like. Now let me take you back in time to when I opened my home bakery, making sugar-free cookies and candies, mainly for the holidays. I was determined to create treats that people with blood sugar issues could enjoy without feeling like they were missing out. And here's what I quickly learned. No single sweetener can fully replace all the properties of sugar. You have to mix them. For my recipes, I love using a blend of allulose and monk fruit as my base, usually a 1-to-1 mix, which means you can use it cup for cup like sugar. These can be found on Amazon and in some brick and mortar stores now like Walmart. But when I need something to harden, like toffee or fudge, that's where erythritol comes in. It's the only sweetener on the market that can harden products, and without it, everything just turns to sticky mush. Trust me, I've tried multiple times. But this blend gives me the perfect balance of sweetness and texture without spiking blood sugar, mixing allulose monk fruit and a little bit of erythritol. It has been game changer for my holiday treats. In addition to erythritol giving a slight aftertaste, it is still well worth it for a bite of the perfect texture fudge or toffee on the holidays. Okay, so there you have it, friends. A full rundown on the best sugar-free sweeteners out there and how to use them in your cooking and baking. Whether you're looking to swap sugar in your coffee, sweeten your smoothies, or bake up some yummy treats, there are so many options now that make it easy to avoid sugar and still keep your taste buds happy. And remember, while some of these sweeteners might cost a little more upfront, they last longer because you use less. And trust me, the savings you're making on future health bills are totally worth it. So I encourage you to explore your local grocery stores or check out Amazon for the sweeteners I mentioned, like allulose, monk fruit, and stevia. You do have to watch out for the powdered versions of stevia, for example, because sometimes they mix in maltodextrin. So that's one reason we like to use either a monk fruit erythritol blend or a liquid monk fruit and liquid stevia, because those tend to not have maltodextrin added. So just make sure that you're paying attention to the ingredient labels. Now, try them out. Let me know what you think. And remember, it's all about finding the right mix for you. Everyone's taste buds are different, so experiment a little bit and have fun with it. And thanks for tuning in today. And don't forget to check the show notes for the link to Serious Keto's video about erythritol if you want to know more. And my simple dessert recipe book is in the links as well to help you get started and keep those blood sugars balanced. Until next time, stay sweet, but sugar-free.